Hey YouTube, how's it going? Nerdy Narwhal here, and I'm back again today with another 6-scale action figure review. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Kai Studios X11 Miyamoto Musashi. Now, this figure is based on his appearance in the long-running and still incompleted manga Vagabond. I absolutely love this manga. I picked it up and read it randomly and out of order when I was a kid, and now I'm reading through it all over again. It is a masterpiece. Absolutely, the artwork is incredible and beyond much of what is being released today. Even the story is incredible, although not wholly original, as it is based on the historical character Miyamoto Musashi, the sword saint of Japan. And but it does have quite a few original twists and turns in it. So I've had previously the Wolf King Miyamoto Musashi, which is again a pretty darn good figure and excellent bang for your buck. But Kai Studios released this one, and for a while I wasn't sure if I'd get it because the Wolf King was working for me. But I did find this incomplete kit here on the bay for a pretty fair price, and thought, what the heck, I'll snag it. I knew the guy selling it. He was a pretty cool dude. So I picked it up, got it in the collection, and we're going to take a look at it today. One thing to note is this figure does come with 2 head sculpts right out the box. One with the ponytail, which is probably a little bit more iconic to Miyamoto Musashi, and this one, which is from his latter appearance in the manga, where his hair is down and he has more scarring on his face there, and that's the head sculpt that my figure came with. Let's get a nice close-up in there, everything we got going on. So you see he has those 3 scars on the forehead. Great looking sculpt. The eyes are nice and wet. It's obviously based on his appearance in the manga. That's not a perfectly humanoid face, but they added just enough realism to the point where I really don't feel too strange sticking this guy in a display with other more realistic looking samurai from Kumodel and things like that, because it doesn't look too out of place, because they took that art from the manga, which, like I said, is already incredible, and only stylized a bit, and added just enough realism to the sculpt to make it work. So this would work in a more cartoony looking display as well as a more realistic display, like I have it. So hopping in here, let's get a look at the articulation. Now this guy is made to be modular, which is super different for me in 1/6 scale. You can see it right here. If I pull that up, this forearm will actually pop off the joint there, and you can put on these solid hand sculpts and these solid forearm hand sculpts that do not have the wrist joint here. I don't own any of those. You have to buy them separately as a kit, and they look great. They look really cool. You can see that there's a lot of vascularity in the forearms here, and with those solid sculpts you basically lose wrist articulation, but you gain just more of that awesome and unbroken sculpt. So if you know exactly how you want to have this guy posed and displayed, absolutely you could pick a couple of those up and it looks really cool. Not what I'm doing today, though. So, as you already saw, you've got the double jointed elbows, and they work remarkably well. That hand goes all the way up there. Pretty standard 6-scale shoulder. Super tight on mine, but you can get them up to here. Hold on, pause. Because everything that I'm doing with this figure, every pose that I put him in, it just looks like he just got done cutting right through an opposing samurai. This figure's great. All right, done gushing about it. So standard 6-scale shoulder joints, all the rotation you want. You can absolutely hear just how tight that joint is. Very tight joint. And usually when I hear joints like that, super creaky, super tight, I'm worried that over time, with a lot of posing, they will loosen up, because that friction's going to give out someday. It's just what happens. He's currently on his display stand, but you do got a goodly amount of ab crunch in there. Back there. Head sculpt is really only impeded by the hair, but you can look up, you can look forward, turn it side to side. It does what it's supposed to do. Now, I do have, when I bought this figure, it came with a pair of the modular legs, so I do not have any ankle articulation on my guy here. Completely solid sculpt, but the knees have a big double jointed bend, big range of motion, and honestly, I've been collecting 6-scale for a while, and I remember back when ankle articulation really wasn't a thing anyways. You get a lot of figures with hard plastic boots, and you just kind of got to figure out how to pose them without any ankle articulation. So the fact that this guy doesn't have articulated ankles isn't really going to bother me. And as you can see, I'm not going to have too much trouble getting him in a pretty dynamic display besides. Let's go. Put those arms out here, get that leg going over a little bit, turn that head, and boom. Looks like Miyamoto Musashi is charging at his next victim. Yeah, awesome figure. Awesome looking. He is on a waist grabber display base, which is usually not preferred by me, but in this instance it is. I used a crotch grabber on the 11X Kai, or on the Wolf King Musashi, and it would just constantly ruffle up the front of his gi there. So I don't mind this one going around the waist. Now let's get him relaxed again. I'll stick him back on the display base, and we'll go in for a quick close-up of this guy's outfit and the fabric work that they got accomplished when producing this figure. All right, so here we go. So it might be a little bit drowned out in my light box, sadly, but when we go in here and look at it, there is a very soft and a very subtle amount of weathering that goes all throughout this gi. So it's up here on the shoulders where it's stitched together. It's right there on the chest. Basically, wherever this figure or this character would have been seeing a lot of motion or a lot of wear, you know, where it rubs up against the pants where it's tucked in, you've got a goodly amount of weathering. The fabric is super thin right here, almost a threadbare sort of look, which probably would have been accurate. Miyamoto Musashi was legendary not for his hygiene, to put it nicely. So his tunic, his gi, it would have probably stank. It would have been incredibly dirty, and that may or may not have all been a part of Musashi's mental game when he was going around and challenging all these other samurai to battles. In fact, I would almost venture, as someone who's not a historian, that that's exactly what part of his head game was. So super good cloth top here. It hangs pretty well because it's a good thin but heavy fabric. It looks great. They captured how this outfit would look in this scale well. Coming down to the belt here, wraps around twice. You just kind of stick the swords in the belt there, and then they hang in nice and tight. And then the pants, when you get to the bottom, you might be able to see that there is more weathering down there. And the only other fabric good that he has is this little pack on his back. And that is Musashi's outfit. Accessories. What sort of accessories does this guy come with? Well, if you are getting the all the different modular hands and all that, this guy's going to come with quite a few hands, some of the open claw-looking kind of hands, and then some of the hands that are just solid pieces. I didn't snag all that, and also I don't always consider hands to be accessories. They're just kind of there. So I just have the 2 gripping hands, and really the only accessories that I'll count is, voila, his swords. And how did they do on his samurai swords? Well, I think pretty good. For being the only real accessory this guy comes with, it's the only one he needs, because that's kind of what Musashi was all about. The swords are nice and thin, good long handles, easily gripped by the hands. I hate swords that are loose in the hands. And yeah, they're thin, they're sleek, they're super reflective, which is nice, almost mirror polished. There is some parts on my swords, and I know a few other collectors also, where it gets a little tiny bit cloudy in there, and I'm wondering just how I could best show that. Get it there. You can see it right here towards the base. But you know, it's really not that bad. It really doesn't bug me. It's still a nice, bright, shiny sword, and compared to the Wolf King version, which I thought also looked really good, the swords were just huge. These big slabs of die-cast metal that weren't reflective at all. They were just your static metallic kind of color. There was that really cool one that had the blood spatter on it, so I'll give him props for that. But in scale, these swords are definitely more true to a 6-scale samurai sword, which I do absolutely like. Okay, wrapping this up now. I love this figure. I like the character of Miyamoto Musashi. I love the manga of Vagabond. It's really cool to have a samurai on display that you can pose with both of his swords, his katana and his wakizashi, because that's a style that Musashi, the Niten Ichiryu, I think is what it's called. That's a style that Musashi himself created and utilized. So he gets to be on display with both of his swords, and it's not really much of a fantasy idea. Whereas other samurai, they will have their pole arm, or they will have just their tachi. He's displayed with both of them, and he looks awesome doing it. If you haven't read Vagabond and you're not really sure who Miyamoto Musashi is, I could totally suggest that you do that. But then you're probably definitely going to want to hunt down a figure of him if you're also a collector, because he is such a quintessential character to samurai history, Japanese history, and to how it's romanticized in Western culture today. Miyamoto Musashi is a very big deal. And yeah, if you get the free time, check out, see what he was all about. See his Book of Five Rings, read Vagabond, read Musashi, the book that is the predecessor to the manga Vagabond, and get into his lore a little bit. Is this figure worth it? If you pre-order it, absolutely. This figure is worth it. This figure is awesome. It looks great. That said, it's going for so much more on the aftermarket now, guys. You're going to be spending possibly upwards of $300 to get a complete one in. And then the price that they're charging for the accessory add-on packs with the modular hands, they're almost charging the full price of another 6-scale figure to get those. I can't honestly say that that's worth it. But if you're cruising the bay, or you're in some of the collecting groups on Facebook or Sideshow Freaks, and one of these pops up from a good dude who just wants to You know, maybe they have two. Maybe like this guy, they built two figures and they're parting another one out because they don't need two Musashis, and you get a pretty fair deal on it. Hop on it and snag this guy. It is a much better figure than the Wolf King version 1 or the Wolf King version 2. That said, if you want to get a lot of bang for your buck, pay just like $150 if you can find it at retail. The Wolf King version 2 comes with an awesome diorama display, and you're not doing too wrong there. But if you want the best Musashi that you can get from a mass-produced 6-scale company right now, you're going to have to hunt down this 11X Kai Miyamoto Musashi. It's a great figure, and I can't stand it enough, honestly. The head sculpt is impeccable. You have the scarring, which comes through wonderfully. You have the eyes, which are stylized to the original artist's art, but also done to look realistic enough to put in a realistic samurai display. It's a cool piece, really cool piece. So, yeah, if you find it and you're thinking, I don't know if it's quality, it's quality. It's good stuff. Snag it. All right, I'm going to get this guy put back into my display. Thanks for watching. If I missed anything or you want to talk about anything down in the comments, please do hit me up. I love to get a dialogue going. All right, guys. Stay happy and keep on collecting. Bye-bye.